From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Someone in Billings is intentionally damaging gas lines in residential neighborhoods. The danger that poses is coming up. And for the first time, Montana has an independent running in a race for the U.S. House of Representatives. At 6:32, meet the candidate and learn what he says he wants to accomplish. Good morning, Southwest Montana. 6:30. On this Tuesday, we've made it. Oh, haven't made it yet. We're not halfway through the week yet, but
cruising along today, though.
Looking great. It's getting a little bit warmer and warmer by the day.
Yeah.
But then I also know it's going to get a little rainy by the end of the week, unfortunately. There's a but to that phrase.
And the bottom's going to fall out. But just take it as it comes. That's my advice to you, one day at a time. And the day that we're taking along today,
it's a great day.
Not too bad. Partly cloudy skies out there, and that's going to be the trend for your Tuesday. Temperatures will be a little on the cooler side, starting a little on the warmer side than they were yesterday for the most part. Little cooler in Wise River and Butte. Temperatures in the 20s there, 29 in West Yellowstone. Cloudy, or more cloudy, I should say, elsewhere. That's why those temperatures hanging in those mid to upper 30s. As far as your day, partly cloudy skies in the Bozeman area, hitting into that low 60-degree range today. We should be a little warmer than that, so I'll call it cool. For Butte, clouds will roll in a little earlier in the afternoon, struggling to reach into the 60s, but tomorrow we're talking 70s and then near 80 degrees on Thursday before we take the bottom out of that barrel and put a little moisture and some cooler temperatures by your weekend. Details coming up from the patio in about 10 minutes.
We will see you in a bit. 6:31 now. Montana DPHHS issued an emergency rule yesterday removing any path for transgender Montanans to change their sex on their birth certificate. The emergency rule comes after a judge placed a temporary hold regarding the constitutionality of Montana Law SB 280 requiring people to get surgery and a court order before that the state would change the sex designation on their birth certificate. The new rule states that previous administrative rules and SB 280's premise that gender can be changed through surgery or otherwise was a mistake. The only way to now change the sex on a birth certificate is through genetic testing and a signed affidavit. Well, since 2008, about a dozen people have managed to run as an independent in elections for either the Montana State Legislature or the Public Service Commission. Now, Gary Buchanan is striving to be the first independent to represent Montana in the U.S. House of Representatives. MTN senior political reporter Ashley Nerbovic reports.
One name voters won't see on their primary ballots this election is Gary Buchanan, who is working to collect more than 8,000 signatures so he can run as an independent in November's general election for the Eastern Congressional District.
But more than anything, my career, whether it's in business or serving in the public area, I've been able to communicate and talk to both parties, and I can certainly talk now to the fastest growing part of Montana politics, which are independents.
The majority of those independents, Buchanan said, are frustrated by the hyper-partisanship dominating politics in Montana and in Washington, D.C. Buchanan thinks his moderate views will resonate with Montana voters.
I think the biggest obstacle is getting on the ballot. That's turning out to be, Republicans and Democrats in the legislature are not fond of independent candidates. And the paperwork and the kinds of things we have to do to collect signatures have turned out to be quite an obstacle.
Buchanan's petition, with its 8,722 needed signatures, is due to local election offices by May 31st. With about a week left, Buchanan said his rough estimate puts him about 1,000 signatures away from his goal. In his public career, Buchanan has served about a half a dozen governors, including Republican Governor Mark Roscoe. Roscoe endorsed Buchanan alongside Democrat Dorothy Bradley, who opposed Roscoe in Montana's 1996 gubernatorial election. Buchanan hopes to take on Republican Representative Matt Rosendale in November. Buchanan said Rosendale's no vote on a non-binding resolution in support of the people of Ukraine pushed Buchanan to run.
Historically, we've had some of the best people ever in international relations. I had the ability to spend time in Tokyo with Mike Mansfield. He was ambassador to Japan, and of course when he ran the United States Senate, things got done.
Buchanan was the first director of the Montana Department of Commerce. He led the 1994 reorganization of Montana state government, which created the Montana Department of Environmental Quality. In recent years, he's pushed for more public safety funding in Billings and said he believes in funding police. Healthcare is also a major policy concern for Buchanan.
The hospitals are having trouble recruiting, and I think when doctors and healthcare professionals look at Montana right now after the last legislature, I think they're very concerned about coming years. Security has had to be increased at every hospital in the state, and I think the politics against healthcare have inflamed that activity, and healthcare would find a friend in Gary Buchanan.
Buchanan's signature gatherers will work up to the deadline, he said. People can find more information about where to sign on to his petition at his website, buchananformontana.com. Stay with MTN News for more coverage of Buchanan's effort to make it on the ballot and all the primary contests ahead of Election Day, June 7th. In Helena, Ashley Nurbovig, MTN News.
In other news, an investigation is underway into gas line tampering on Billings West End. Montana Dakota Utilities confirmed someone damaged at least 23 gas lines last week right outside people's homes. MTN's Alina Howder reports from one of those subdivisions with what we've learned so far.
I'm in front of the Granite Park subdivision, one of the more than half a dozen neighborhoods in which MDU says this occurred. According to them, someone intentionally damaged gas lines, creating almost 24 leaks.
It's lucky that it didn't turn out deadly situation for a lot of people.
Crime can happen anywhere, at any time, and in any neighborhood.
Wherever he's been, I hope they can track them all down.
But this is downright bizarre. A man going door to door, purposely damaging natural gas lines in several West Billings subdivisions.
Basically walked up and asked if we wanted to be a part of a program where they create a leak on the MDU's side of the meter.
Montana Dakota Utilities believes it all happened on May 15th, telling MTN at least 23 lines were tampered with. The utility isn't saying how the lines were damaged, only that the leaks have since been repaired. One man, who didn't want to speak with us on camera, brought us into his backyard to show us the damage. He says this man captured on camera was wearing MDU attire and claimed to be an MDU employee. The man says the vandals showed up in a work truck and asked if he wanted to be part of the program. He said yes, but he ended up with 2 damaged gas lines. Joshua Myrie says that story sounds all too familiar.
He's shown up when we've had gas leaks or things like that, so I was very familiar with him. He goes, you won't be charged for anything or anything like that, and I had to stop him and ask him. I said, isn't any leak dangerous?
Myrie works for the city's Public Works Department and says he's seen the man on job sites many times before. He says the man even asked him about creating leaks. MTN asked Montana Dakota Utilities whether the man was a current or former employee. The utility responded with this statement, saying this is an open law enforcement matter, so Montana Dakota Utilities is not at liberty to provide many additional details at this time. The utility went on to say the incident has been referred to local law enforcement. Billings Police Monday did not respond to our questions about the man, and a lack of information is why residents like Josh are frustrated.
My trust has been broken like a lot of other people's, and it's just a bad situation that should have never have happened, and unfortunately I don't feel like MDU has handled it very well.
A crime that hits way too close to home.
I hope this guy faces some kind of charges, gets the help that he needs, and I just hope that they just take care of it.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Well, the doors are open and customers are back, but restaurant owners say things are not back to normal. Staffing shortages and inflation are still hurting restaurants around the country. Now, some restaurants are getting creative to succeed with fewer employees.
I'm Alexa Liacco. Eating out today looks a lot different than it did 2 years ago. There's often long waits to get a table and then an even longer wait to get your food. But with technology and a little innovation, some restaurants are learning how to beat the headaches caused by the staffing shortage.
We anticipate it being our busiest year yet.
It's a welcome sight. Tables full of friends, strangers chatting at the bar.
Really, when you leave your home, you're looking for that engagement and interaction with others. And we've definitely seen that has returned immensely in the last 6 months.
But even with record numbers of people eating out and 74% of the restaurants around the country reporting increased sales, restaurants are still struggling.
We've all had to get really creative. It's not uncommon to go into a restaurant and have your GM being the one that's running food and bussing tables because we have been so understaffed for so long.
Courtney Griffith runs the Catbird Hotel and Restaurant in Denver. It opened in the middle of the pandemic, so from the start, she had to run this space differently.
We're a 165-room hotel with a rooftop restaurant and bar that can accommodate up to 600 people in a day. We would normally operate with 75 to 100 employees, and we have been running with 25 to 40.
But how?
So you just scan this QR code, you see the red barber menu pops up.
Technology is the biggest help. At the restaurant, you order yourself and pay from your phone. There are no servers, just food runners.
So they're really able to focus on that guest interaction instead of the transactional interactions.
Next, all employees are trained to work every position.
Hired to kind of be like well-rounded, and so you might come in for a breakfast attendant position, but you're also the concierge at the front desk or a food runner on the weekend for a banquet.
These changes have helped keep employees on and attract new workers.
I honestly prefer it just because I feel like that makes you more of a team player. You can kind of jump in, help whenever.
The team here is hoping other restaurants will follow this lead and make these pandemic changes permanent. Denise Mickelson of the Colorado Restaurant Association says it's already happening.
Technology is going to be more and more prevalent. I don't think paper menus are coming back necessarily, and I think that customers are going to be expected and also want to be a little bit more in charge of the experience that they have at restaurants, and tech allows for that.
And with changes for the customer come changes for workers too. Nationally, food service wages are up 10%, and more restaurants are offering benefits.
In the last couple of years, and we're talking everything from educational stipends to health and wellness support, and resources to medical insurance, vision, 401k. You name it.
These changes forced by the pandemic have been hard for many restaurants to overcome, but they're changes many in the service industry have been waiting for. Changes many think will make this industry better for years to come. I'm Alexa Liacco.